What's up, team? Sean from Rest to Live here. I wasn't planning on doing another video today, so I don't have my lights set up. I don't have all the right stuff set up right now, but I was just thinking about it here. It's October 13th. The market's closed for the day. I'm thinking about the news of the week, thinking about CPI, thinking about inflation, and really thinking about the fact that there are still potentially really big diamonds just under the surface. Okay. There are things out there that have me feeling pretty good about the situations and the concurrence of events that have happened recently. And in this case, I want to talk about Palantir. I know we talk about this quite a bit. I am not approaching this. All right. So let's be clear. This is not about the stock. This is not about the market cap. This is not about predicting the price. This is not about saying it's going up or it's going down. I am talking purely about the company and the technology. Okay. So I'm calling this out on purpose because this is not an analysis that has anything to do with the price. This is just taking a step back and thinking about it in terms of some reality. All right. Because I think there's a million people who are fanboys and they're pumping the price or trying to dump the price or whatever the case is. This is not the purpose of this. This is someone who works in the industry. I know this space really well. I've worked on FedRAMP projects. I work on analytics and AI projects. I work on data projects all the time, full time. It's what I do. Okay. I know databases. I know AI. I know analytics. I know this space. And all that being said, the reason why I'm prefacing it this way is because I don't want you to hear this and rush out and think that there's some incoming price increase or some incoming huge thing that we need to be aware of. I'm telling you full stop. I'm not doing that for a reason. I was sitting at the bus stop getting my youngest off the bus, and it sort of just popped in my mind here that as I separate myself a bit from the market and I separate myself a bit from the ups and downs of the daily stock prices, right? And focus really on where they are in their market, where they are from a competitive perspective, and where they are in an execution perspective, I think I'm pretty comfortable saying that as it stands, I don't really think that they have an actual competitor. I think that they have achieved a certain degree of market dominance. And I'm going to get into this in a second here. Now, the reason why I had this whole preface is because even the most dominant players in the world don't necessarily get the prices that reflect that. So that's why you can't use this information to make financial decisions or to take it as advice, because I'm not providing that. But it's not because of covering my bot or something like that. I'm telling you, even I recognize this with my own portfolio. Everything I'm about to say does not necessarily have anything to do with what will or won't happen with the pricing. But here's what we have for news, right? We know that they achieved IL6 level for DoD data work. We know they have massive connections and massive contracts in the government space. They're an absolute power player in the military and war space. They have a growing commercial space. Their products work. They are executing on this. They're growing their contracts. They're sitting on a boatload of cash. They have access to credit facilities as of the last report. That's what we're aware of. And the price overall has been pretty stagnant. So that's, again, I want to make that point that you sometimes have to get away from pricing to really analyze. When I start to do my due diligence or I start to really dig in deep on anything, and this is one that I've been digging in for a long time, the very first thing I do is I come at from the perspective of total negativity. Okay. So this is not how most people do things. This is what gets them in trouble. When they think about an analysis, they come at it from the standpoint of like, hey, I love this stock. I'm going to find lots of reasons why I should love it. Right. And that's the wrong way to do it. I come at every company from the standpoint of how would I compete and take business away from them? How would I find a way to put them out of business? How could I outwork them? How could I out tech them? How could I out attribute them across the board? How could I build a better team? How could I build better competitive products? How could I build a better or less friction environment to work with? And every company I work with, I can think of lots of ways that I could smoke them. Okay. This doesn't mean I would be putting AWS out of business. This doesn't mean I'd be putting Microsoft out of business. But certainly there's lots of ways I can think of to take business from them. Maybe it's 0.1% and they have to buy my company, or maybe it's 1% and they have to make me a huge acquisition, right? Or really pay for me to leave them alone. With the amount of cash and credit they're sitting on, the fact that they're one of only 3 approved vendors at IL6, one is Microsoft, one is AWS, Amazon, the other is, of course, Palantir. The fact that they are so much smaller than those other two, as well as overall sort of metrics and growth of the company, there's just certain things here that are so impossible to compete with, at least for the near term. I can't even conceptually come up with a way for how I would do that. Number one, let's just think about the government side for a second. And I'm telling you, this is not some fanboy BS where like I'm really hot to trot on this position. I'm telling you, it's not that at all. They're one of only 3 vendors who are working with the US government for IL6. Okay. So right off the bat, that means they're going to sort of have first dibs on any kind of contract at the DoD data level that requires that level of data security and the ability to operate and execute within extremely private data centers, servers, lakes, etc. Okay. Now, the other piece of that is the soft piece. This is the part that's hard to materialize into a metric or into an analysis. When you think about it in terms of connections, they have a massive base of military and government connections. They work with governments and militaries all over the world. They have the data and proof points to do this. When you combine that level of personal connection with the technology connection and execution, combined with the fact that they're also sitting on cash and can acquire or add on to the business, release new products, continue to do heavy R&D, etc. I stand back and I just almost think to myself, what am I missing? What part of this is wrong? And I think that maybe if I was going to pull some strings and separate from the government side of the business, which look, we know is extremely strong. They just closed another huge contract the other day. You could definitely pick apart the commercial business. Okay. And anyone who tells you otherwise is so full of it, they could probably float on top of the water. So for sure, their commercial business is beatable. For sure, they're not winning all of their deals. For sure, customers will naturally churn to some degree. Okay. But that still puts them in the top tier of players in that space. So they don't need to win all of those deals. They just can win some of those deals and still be a huge, really great company. Again, we're talking about the company, not secondary pricing, not market caps, nothing. Okay. And when I think about where they are and what they've released and the size of their teams, it's very small compared to a lot of players. So if I break this into 2 categories, in one side, it is just complete dominance on the government side and the military side and the DoD side and that perspective. On the other side, it is a growing and dominant player in the commercial space. It's important to call out that you can be dominant while not controlling the whole business, right? As long as you're winning and adding and growing that baseline, you can dominate in small ways and that can grow over time. And as more of that government contract money keeps coming into the company, keeps building it, the more and more I keep getting excited about how that allows them to fund more on the commercial side, expand more on that side of the house as well. I don't know what they have for plans. I don't know what they're going to do with that money. I don't think anyone does. And I would really urge you to second guess anyone who says they do. But what I do know is that in a time of constricting deals, in a time of layoffs, in a time of a tough business economic environment, they sort of have this perpetual machine going where when things are bad, they're very strong. When things are good, they're growing and getting stronger. And so as that natural cycle of economic recovery, recession, inflation and deflation goes on over time, there's areas they can play in different ways. In the same kind of way that we think about it from the government side, when things are bad, they're really focusing on that sort of defense military side of it. And on the flip side, when things aren't bad, or even when they are bad, they're really still focused on a lot of the health side of it. So I guess I just wanted to get this all out of my brain because I was standing there thinking to myself, wow, just to silo out the government side of the house, the dominance, it has such a massive moat around it. We talk about moats all the time, but getting to be one of only 3 vendors for the government of the US, for the DoD, that level of clearance and access means that you've got at least a 1 in 3 chance of winning a lot of these deals. And some of them are going to be very specific projects that they can't touch or don't work on. And some will be projects they absolutely only they will really be able to work on. So keep that in mind too. Again, future, I'm not making calls on price or stock here. I'm just saying my gut feel based on what I'm seeing. So I don't know. I guess what I would ask is, for the sake of my own due diligence, if you're watching this, tell me where I'm wrong. I think I addressed the government side pretty thoroughly. I feel like I addressed the commercial side fairly thoroughly. Growing, becoming dominant, but still at risk of losing lots of deals. Still can lose customers. So definitely, I live in reality there, 100%. But that's anyone in the commercial business. It's going to come down to pricing, timing, what cycles customers are in, are there procurement budgets available, do they have contracts expiring, etc. So with that, let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your opinions. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching another video on this channel. I really appreciate you. Thanks, everybody.